It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, my name is Tyler Hapney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. My name is Tyler Hapney. I am your game master and host for hundreds of sessions of Dungeons and Dragons and Cyberpunk RED, and this podcast is a way for me to reconciliate my thoughts on those systems. This week we're going to be talking a bit about Cyberpunk RED, continuing our series discussing all of the different roles and classes you can play in the game. I was considering talking a lot about Edge Runners, the Cyberpunk show today, because recently there was an announcement for a season 2 that has been in development. Of course, we've saw Netflix has already sort of sort of teased that, but now we know officially that the Cyberpunk anime project they were working on was, of course, Edge Runners Season 2. A lot of good stuff in Edge Runners. Probably we should do an episode about that sometime soon, but today we are going to be looking at the media role in Cyberpunk RED, because we haven't looked at media quite yet, and I feel like it is definitely an interesting role to take a good long look at. So when it comes to the media role, I've found that this role, above a lot of the others, is a lot like tech, where you sort of have to make your own plot lines to sort of follow and kind of be creative with your role. A lot of that doesn't just come to you. You kind of have to make it yourself. And that obviously is a good outlet for player creativity, because you can really go crazy with it. I have had multiple campaigns and series of quests that have gone off the rail because of one well-placed media who did a role and managed to succeed. So really, honestly, medias can be super crazy and important to a campaign, dependent on how they're being used by their player. And that's ultimately kind of how media comes down to, is, how are you playing it necessarily. So without further ado, let's kind of get into media and what media is. So on the surface, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell what the purpose of a media character is. You're in the media. you're the person who's, a journalist or a reporter of some kind, and you're going out and you're trying to break the tough stories that the various companies and corporations of Night City are trying to conceal. Or maybe you're working for these companies and you're trying to make things look a certain way, or cover things up for the company. Or maybe you're a private detective and you're just trying to get a good story straight so that you can report it to whoever. Medias are very much an investigative kind of role. They're all about getting down to the meat and potatoes of exactly what is happening, why it's happening, who's at the base of it, and even in some cases punishing those who are doing the bad things in Night City. And notice I said some cases. It's not all the time. Unfortunately, there is still quite a lot of struggle when it comes to becoming a media in Night City, getting your name, and having any sort of impact upon the cultural atmosphere that exists within the cesspool that is Night City. So, what exactly do medias do? Let's get into the mechanics of a media, and you'll kind of understand what I mean when I say it's an investigative role. So the first one that's, I'd say, majorly important would be the ability to find rumors. So obviously most roles already have access to the Streetwise ability, which is an ability that lets you kind of, be one with the street, kind of get that sort of knowledge. But rumors, I think, takes it to the next level. This is, if your character doesn't know the knowledge, doesn't know what they need to, they can either actively or passively pick up rumors that might help them towards their current case, or help them find a new case. And a lot of times these rumors are, they can be pretty substantial, or they can be pretty somewhat light, depending on what you roll for your media ability. Because the way you kind of find these these rumors is it goes from vague to detailed. And if you're just trying to passively pick up these rumors, then the DV is lower. For instance, for a detailed rumor, the DV is only 13. If you're if you're passively hunting for rumors, but if you're actively searching for rumors, like actively trying to hit the streets and find information, the DV does go up pretty significantly. It becomes a DV 21 for a detailed rumor, and then a DV 13 for just a vague rumor if you're actively hunting this information out. So obviously there's that immediately that investigative angle of your character can be used to find information that the party does not have already. Just hands down, you don't have to really do a ton of work. You just have to beat a roll, and then you will be able to obtain that information. That's not something most people in your party can do. I mean, fixers maybe, but even then, they're likely going to have to pay somebody or make a trade or some sort of thing. Down payments, you know what fixers do. So very much it's kind of good for parties that are trying to figure out a larger plot or maybe trying to get to the next step of whatever they're trying to do. And that's just one part of the media's abilities, and it's something that kind of sticks with them for the rest. The ability to find rumors does not necessarily get better as you go on. You get obviously the different relevant skills and stuff higher up, which makes it easier to make these rolls, but at the same time, you know, there's no necessarily changes in the DVs over the course of the roll. It's always going to be the same numbers. So that's rumors. That's I'd say the most basic part of the media role. It's pretty simple, you know, just find some rumors. But when we get into the actual meat and potatoes here, we're going to talk about publishing media stories for the media, which is where a lot of that campaign changing nonsense I mentioned earlier can come into play. So there's quite a lot of ways this sort of breaks down, but much like the other role abilities, depending on what level you are in the role, will change what you have access to, what you can do, all that other stuff. So we're going to kind of go through those. Credibility is the rank we're going to consider. It's sort of what you're building up as a media. And there are different credibility ranks that equal to your media level. Obviously, the higher level you are, the more credible you're going to be, and the more impact your stories are going to be able to have on your environment. So credibility ranks 1 and 2. You have sources and a sort of access to local areas, but nothing major. Local honchos, like a head boss in the area, a gang lord, a local neighborhood leadership, like the HOA. You could talk to them. Ranks 1 and 2, it's nothing too crazy. You know, you're not talking to any politicians or members of City Hall or anything, but you are able to, I guess, sort of talk a little to like the local neighborhood watch, or maybe there's a gang in your neighborhood. You're able to kind of talk to him or one of the lieutenants there. Your audience is your immediate neighborhood, just wherever you live. People in the area probably read you just so they can keep up with the local happenings. Believability, which is the hugest, I think the biggest part of credibility, but believability is only 2 out of 10 chance that the audience believes it at ranks 1 and 2, which means, of course, that most people aren't going to be believing it, and you're going to be seen more as a local rag, but there's still a chance. And if that chance works out, the impact is going to be pretty small. Small-time bad guys are scared and may change their ways a little. So really, you know, you're helping out with the local gang of thugs that are, I don't know, stealing from the back of convenience stores or something, and you might be able to convince them that that's bad. That's, you know, it's not great. But then you get on to credibility ranks 3 and 4, which, remember, you start at rank 4 typically. So this is usually where people are going to be starting out as the media rank. With you get your access and sources. You have the city gang honcho, so now like a lieutenant of a gang that's throughout the whole city. A minor politician, so I don't know, like somebody who's on the school board or something. A corporate exec, and a well-known person in your neighborhood. So obviously we are getting a little higher up there. We are able to actually start talking to corporate execs, which are, kind of a big deal. Some of them like to do interviews, some of them don't. And our believability goes up by 1. So it's a 3 out of 10 chance the audience buys us now. And we are now a well-known contributor on the local scream sheet or data pool. So within the newspapers or online, people know us. The impact of credibility ranks 3 and 4. It has a direct effect. Local small-time bad guys are getting arrested or thrown out of power. Justice gets served. So this is your kind of basic, hey, these bad guys are doing bad things, and now the story's been published, so the cops have arrested them. That's great. That's awesome. We're actually starting to get some impact here out of our credibility. But of course, we're only at the second rank of this stuff. Let's talk about ranks 5 and 6. For your access and sources, you get a major city player, city political, or a local celebrity. So that's pretty big. I mean, being able to talk to the local Night City celebrities is pretty nice. But more importantly, being able to actually talk to city politicos, like people who are in City Hall or major city players even, like, major edge runners. That having access to those people is extremely important for being a media, because they always have their own opinions on all these different things, and they can help you sort of figure out what's going on. So next up, we're going to talk about ranks 7 and 8. We're still raising up. We now have access to a local corporation president. So I don't know if we want to talk to the guy in charge of Night City Financial. We could probably do that. At rank 7 and 8. Mayor or city manager, that's right. You can just talk to the mayor or the sort of mayor of Night City, the Hackinsons of Night City. City celebrity. So here we have actual like rocker boys and other things like that. Audience. This one's interesting. I didn't talk about impact on the last one either, or audience. So that's my bad. For 5 and 6, your audience would go citywide. And your story might change things all over the city. And then in rank 7 and 8, your stuff goes statewide. You become a minor celebrity in your own right. And the change created by your story or scoop can change things all over several cities. Mid-level corporations or governments may even be thrown out of power by your stories. Laws may be passed that affect people over several cities. So obviously at rank 7 and 8, we are an actual significant media that has influence over multiple cities in our local area, likely within the state of wherever your campaigns takes place. Presumably Night City, meaning I think that would be North California. For rank 9, your access sources are a divisional corporation head, a state politico, or a well-known celebrity, worldwide. Audience, you are known many across the country, but not by everyone. You're still maybe a little obscure. If they've seen you, chances are it is on a national news feed, which is important because now you are national. You are nationwide. People know your name. Your believability is 6 out of 10 at this point. So it's still it's more than 50%, but it's still not as high as you might even think. The impact you can have on your changes here are change created by a story scoop can change things all over a major area, like a whole nation. Large corporations or local governments may even be toppled. Laws may be passed that affect people over the whole nation. So really, at this point, we're almost to the worldwide acclaim, which obviously that's probably where we're heading to next at rank 10. But still, we are growing pretty rapidly here through these ranks, and a lot of times these take some significant time to build up to. So rank 10, you have access to major world leaders, major corporation heads, and world-famous celebrities. So, that's pretty huge. You are known worldwide. People stop you for autographs, and people in high places use you to leak important stuff. So, hey, that's... we have major media figures now that are taking over this sort of role, and then your believability tops out at 7 out of 10. So there's no way to go past 7 out of 10. You'll always have a 30% chance that your audience will believe it's made up or fake, or it doesn't even have much of an impact. That's just whatever. But 7 out of 10 of your stories should have some sort of impact at rank 10 media. Your impact, of course, being you can change things all over the world. Megacorps and powerful governments may fall or even be overthrown. International laws may be established. Change can affect millions. And that's really sort of the important part here about the media. As you've seen, you can grow your influence to the point where you can theoretically change the course of entire campaigns by publishing the right story. And one thing I always like to tell my players is that the story doesn't even have to be true. You can take whatever slant side you want and really just kind of run with it, so long as you can find the proper evidence and be able to link it together and pass that believability check. You can have a very, very, very noticeable impact upon whatever campaign you happen to be running in. So that, my friends, is the media class. And personally, one of my favorites, but it does require a lot of work from players and creativity because you do have to find evidence. And I mean, the DM can obviously do that for you, and I do wind up for my media players a lot, helping them with that. But at the same time, a lot of times they find that evidence themselves, or they look for it, and I can help them out that way. So if you're going to play media, please do remember, always be looking for proof, and make sure you let your DM know. All right, so we're going to move on to our metaphorical monster of the week. Today we're going to be talking about a media company in Cyberpunk. I don't think I've spoken about this one yet. If I have, my apologies. We're going to be talking about N54. That's National News 54. They are the sort of worldwide one of the worldwide news organizations in Cyberpunk. They're competitors with WNS, the World News Service. I think there's another one, but WNS is, I tend to sort of position them as the rival to N54. N54 is, well, the way I've been playing it at least is they're a multimedia mega conglomerate. They run a lot of they're the biggest media company in Cyberpunk. They have so many different channels. They have all these different programs. One of the more famous ones is Fiona Hayes. I could do an entire episode on Fiona Hayes personally. She's got an insane storyline that has to do with N54. Basically, it's not a clone necessarily, but they're replacing her with lookalikes over and over again. There's like the fifth Fiona, it's crazy, something like that. Yeah, I mean, she's one of their top investigators. She's shown a whole bunch of things, obviously, though, put through a corporate sort of filter of N54. The best way I like to imagine N54 is they're a lot like Fox News. They have all types of programming, 24/7, running a news station. They've probably got an actual media station with a bunch of different shows and animation and whatever. But at the end of the day, I think the best company to equate N54 to would be Fox. And I have a couple of friends who've sort of engaged with N54 in that sense. I have one friend who's made a media character whose entire shtick is that he sort of makes fun of Tucker Carlson and the sort of talking heads you can find on those sort of news channels. And obviously it's one of those characters where he's always kind of the butt of the joke. He's failing upwards and all that other business. And it's N54 that allows him, that sort of corporate culture that allows him to thrive amongst all of this sort of incompetence and cruelty and other things that one could expect to find at a major media news conglomerate. So some interesting things about N54. For one, like I said, they are the biggest media company in Cyberpunk RED. In fact, the entire Cyberpunk universe. I would say they've probably got quite a lot of influence when it comes to how things sort of push around in Night City. So I think if you're ever going to be a media, and you're not exactly going to be a mainstream media character, I think N54 for dungeon masters and even players out there could be a potentially really good rival, because they could always be maybe on the scene trying to investigate things your character is, or maybe they're posting things that are completely not what your character's, kind of making out. So you've kind of got this media rivalry between a small time media and a big conglomerate. That would be really interesting, and I think it would really play into the fact that believability for medias is pretty low, especially in early levels. So you could really build up a sort of audience by taking on N54 and going after this sort of battle of disinformation. Or, you could work for N54 and happily spread that disinformation yourself, as one of my players has so lovingly chosen to do. But as for now, that is going to be it for us this week. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. My name has been Tyler Hapney, and I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for listening.